So, hello, and glad to see all you here. My today's second topic is to talk about a bit about classification systems, or based on classification system, how to structure BIM-related construction information. So, a quick overview, introduction, of course, a bit information about methodology, what has been used, how, and also some case studies in the end, conclusions as well. So a quick kind of motivation. We all know that unstructured construction information is hard to reuse, and information itself is quite often not clustered and tied to a specific platform possibilities, and also how you are able to use those. So in this research development, the idea was to develop classification system-based identification system, which is platform neutral, customizable according to the exchange needs, like client-based, project-based, so flexibility is included. And current development or proposal is also tested in pilots throughout several years to improve the system. Now a bit of background. You are probably interested what is the basis. The basis is CCI, quite new classification system, just some years old. It's open source, BIM-enabled construction classification system, which is EN ISO standards based. Also is using ISO 12006 Part 2 framework. And in this CCI core tables, also those core classification codes are populated based on standards EN ISO 81346 series. And just to visualize this part, this core part from 12006 is those green tables, which identify mostly construction element, but also entity, complex, and the space. But also at national level, we have also developed those called subtables, well, not exactly subtables, but additional tables, so that we can talk about classification system which is life cycle based. And you also see what has been the source data for all those tables. You also see that those core tables has been developed by Construction Classification International Collaboration, so this is international part, and not just Estonia, there are other countries as well. And to show now some examples how we can get an ID part or identification part. Of course, it can be at different level, meaning that at different detail level. So you have an additional possibilities how you can filter your data from your model or from your tables, whatever the source is. We are not just talking about models. Basically, we have incorporated standards-based, let's say, ways how we can combine those codes together. You see from here, red part is a construction component level. We start from the right-hand side. This ULG is construction component. This belongs to some technical system, and technical system belongs to functional system. And then we can also divide those codings into two parts, so we don't have to use those long codes. And we can also show the construction entity connection and complex connection. And in here you see also some letter codings that are available in those CCI core tables. And I will also show some software-based examples later on, but quick examples also already in here. At general level, you can use those CCI core classification codes, also IFC classification reference on this structure. But if you want to go more detailed, you can use properties, but I will have some more examples. So in here you can see just properties are used. And also if you export this data from whatever design package into, for example, IFC, you can have a federated model, and then you can, let's say, extract this data based on classification code and classification ID system. So if you want to go to more detailed. Some words about also at the lower part, because in quite many countries actually, at least in the Nordics, there are so many different classification systems used for different purposes. And this CCI initiative also has helped us to combine different, let's say, standards and different classification systems into one ecosystem. But it's not just copy-pasting, because sometimes you have those isolated classification systems related to component as well. So basically, you have to remove or you have to merge those different classification systems together so that it forms a unity. Yeah? Otherwise, people start to use that single table from that bigger classification system on its own, and this is not the idea. Now, to go to more detailed level from those standardized classification codes, in this project we also develop standard-based types and subtypes, and those can be based on project client requirements, asset divisions, but it helps to connect a specific asset to that CCI table, because we all know that there are used so many different terms, and it's not easy to find maybe that specific term from the CCI core tables. And here are some examples. For example, paving from the infrastructure side has CCI code NCA, and the left-hand side you can see actually some NCI types and also subtypes, which are coming from EN standard. So like flexible pavement, and an example, a subtype asphalt concrete. So yeah, and also on the right-hand image from the actually from the article, those should be more readable. You can see how membrane has been developed further into types and subtypes. And once again, those in some software platforms. So, and the last part is, of course, reference designation system. So how you combine those together. You can do that based on standards again. Again, those prefixes are from 81346 standard, and plus and minus, and also percentage. And if you will now include also those type numbering and ID number, then you might see a long code, but again, you can just divide it into different parts, yeah? Which says something about construction component, and usually those components are connected to the same entity or building, for example, or infrastructure object. So type number and ID number, which means that you have, let's say, type number 32, and you have, let's say, 50 of those components in one entity or in one technical system. Yeah, so it's a structuring possibility. And once again, here are some examples of different levels of classifications. If you export this data to IFC, if we talk about model-based ID, yeah, then this information can be seen at different levels, like IFC classification reference or through properties. And yeah, just a couple of examples from some software platforms. For example, Revit, you just use properties to define the system for your needs, and in Civil as well, you define property sets for your needs. And this system is currently piloted in our own campus based on buildings, and also at much wider sense, transport administration project, which incorporates infrastructure objects and typing and subtyping, and also connecting this way into their own IT systems. And just finally, some more examples. For example, how to divide a pipe, which is CCI code and based on EN ISO standards, or flooring. And you can find more information about it also from CCI core tables, collaboration.org, and everything is also available in English, of course.